Good afternoon. Let's talk some NASCAR. I am Nick from CWE from ResearchFantasy.com, and I'm here to talk about the Overton's 301 at Loudon Speedway in New Hampshire. It should be a very interesting race. This is a flat track, not much banking here. And it's a 1 mile track. So let's take a look at a few things. I'm going to try to keep this under the 20 minutes that it was last week because I understand that's an absolute ton of time. I'm not going to go through each play. I'm just going to focus on strategy, give a couple of my favorite plays, and move on from there. So 301 laps on a 1 mile track means that laps led is going to be a big part of what we are looking for. Like, place differential every week is something we want to try to take advantage of, but on these mile-long tracks where you're going to have so many laps, if someone messes around and leads, 200 laps here, that's 50 points. You figure if half of them were fastest laps, you're talking probably another 50 points. They've got 146 points in the lead, and if that's where they finish, you're not going to end up being able to cash any reasonable amount of money without them. So laps led is going to be a big thing. I mean, you kind of know your guys who can possibly do that. My gut reaction this week is to look towards guys like Martin Truex Jr., the Bushes, Harvick. Chase Elliott could surprise, and Eric Jones could actually surprise as well. He has a pretty good track record here in Xfinity racing and on this track type in general. Guys I wouldn't look at. Kenseth is kind of up in the air for me. He's had really strong history here, but just don't love the upside for him to lead a ton of laps. Jimmy Johnson, the number 2 position's actually seemingly done pretty well here in times past. Johnson isn't like a laps leader. He just doesn't seem to really excel in that area. He seems to be a guy who leads the last 5 laps and wins a race. And I'm just naturally hesitant to look toward him starting second. I like Jimmy Johnson when he starts 20 back because he likes passing cars. You're not passing many cars. At 2, though, there's going to be lap traffic, but that's a whole different thing. Jamie McMurray offers practically no upside. Great race car driver. Could be on the winning lineup if he maintains position, but we're talking about guys who were looking at getting laps led. And then Brad Keselowski and Joey Logano, these cars just don't look good. Keselowski has come out and said that his car just hasn't been good, so I would just kind of veer away from those when thinking about laps led. Fastest laps, a little bit unpredictable. What I do is I just like to pull the stats and adjust my projections and basically just say, okay, realistically, the leader is going to have a favorable amount of fastest laps. Otherwise, I adjust my projections based off of on the season who's running fastest laps. And then place differential. I mean, guys that jump out at me this week: Harvick, Suarez, Blaney, Stenhouse, Earnhardt, Bowyer, Newman, Austin Dillon, maybe Trevor Bayne, Menard, Danica. So that's kind of my mindset going into this thing. I'm going to weigh my lineups with more of those drivers than anything else. Then we have Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson killed it in qualifying yesterday. But if you look, who's on the pole this week? It's Martin Truex Jr. How can one win qualifying and not end up on the pole? Well, you get disqualified in inspection. So I could be wrong on this, but I don't think I am, since he ran qualifying. I believe that he's going to be scored based off of starting first, and he's going to start in the back. So that's 38-point differential off rip. Not a good way to start the race. But here's the thing. Fast car can definitely move up very quickly. That fast car and moving up positions is going to gain him some fastest laps. Track record on these types of tracks, not very good. The place differential is working heavily against him. For Larson to be worthwhile, he's going to have to end up finishing in the top 5 and either leading a bunch of laps somehow or gaining the vast majority of fastest laps, which is just not something I can really feel like you can buy in on. So, with all that being said, I would most likely just avoid Larson this week or have a very small exposure to him. I will probably update this video in case I'm completely wrong on the Larson thing, but I just can't see how getting disqualified and starting from the back, I'm going to have to look into this a little more. Let me just put it that way. But I think that that's how it should work out. I can't think of another situation where this happened this year. Okay, so that'll bring us to our favorite picks on the week, and I just want to drop 4. So first of all, Truex is on the pole. Right there, that's it. I mean, this guy doesn't look great, but let me rephrase it. This guy hasn't done well on this track. He led a ton of laps last time he was out here. Overall, though, it's very common for people to just look at his past results and be like, well, the dude was running like 12th at the finish. I don't want to play him. Well, Truex is on another level. His car has been the best car in NASCAR this year. Maybe not on the short runs, but on the long runs, he's just killing it. Jimmy Johnson is not somebody I see giving him trouble. If we were sitting with like Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, even a Keselowski, Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, if they were on the front row with Truex, I think there would be some cause for concern about him being one of those pole sitters at this track that leads 1 or 2 laps and then gets shuffled to the middle of the pack and has to work to regain their position. But Jimmy Johnson just isn't someone who I feel really threatened about leading laps here. So I think Truex should be able to do well in the short and the long runs. I think he's probably your safest play. I think he's the logical place to start in your cash games. The only thing that is really going to hurt him is if something out of his control happens. If there's an excessive amount of cautions, or if he has a bad pit, or if there's mechanical failure or an accident that he ends up being a part of. Like, you hate to say it in pillar to post, using a wrestling term here. I don't see him going pillar to post on this race, but if he leads 100, 200 laps, which he very easily can, I mean, you're going to just be out of position without him in your lineup. Next guy I really like, Kevin Harvick. He's priced as the 3rd highest option, so you've got Truex is your 2nd highest option, Harvick is your 3rd option. As far as I'm concerned, those are the 2 guys I'm locking in my cash games. Harvick has done very well for himself at this track. You can never predict if there's going to be an accident or whatever. Starting 12th, he's got that perfect combination of the ability to have place differential, lead laps, and have some fastest laps. There's going to be enough shuffling that it's not going to be unheard of for Harvick to get up front. If he uses good pit strategy, there's also the potential that he can end up front as well. So I just don't really have too much of a concern. I think he's a really safe option who should finish, in the 55 to 75 point range if he has a good day. If he has a great day, then he's over triple digits. And it's very possible for 2 guys to end up over triple digits here. It's not the highest likelihood, but I think it could happen. Moving on from there, I want to have some place differential plays. I'm looking at Austin Dillon, priced at $7K. I think that's a nice mid-range salary guy. Somebody that you could put in your lineup pretty easily. And he's had finishes, I believe his range was 8th to 22nd, which is all of those finishes above where he's starting this year at 26th. The speeds in practice haven't been great. I'm not going to hold that against him. If you have an algorithm that compares speeds in practice to qualifying, I'm going to be honest with you, it probably isn't going to work because I've tried that and the results have been extremely poor. Always trying to figure out what is the right combination of juju to put together an algorithm. That does not seem to be any kind of indication because it just doesn't take into consideration things like variance and a guy like Brad Keselowski who might, in one lap runs, do really well and come out and say, this car is horrible, and your projections are still going to say that he's a great option for the day. So I'm really liking what I've seen out of him at this track. I think he can definitely move up as high as top 10. I'm not banking on him getting in that top 10 in my mind. Kind of have him between the 12 to 14 range, and that's giving you anywhere from 12 to 14 points of place differential plus, mid 30s just for where he's at, and that puts you in the mid 40s to 50s. Really strong play. For my last play, I actually really had a difficult time. There's two people I really like Paul Menard, really like Danica Patrick. They're starting 29th and 30th. Really, Danica has been running very well all year. She's just been involved with a lot of accidents that weren't her fault. She's had, especially in the past several weeks, she's qualified extremely high for a number of races. She doesn't finish there, but still, when you're saying Danica Patrick is starting 30th, I definitely think that you could see her finish 22 or higher. Now, she has 140th finish in the last 6 races here. Other than that, she's got 3 top 20s. Again, you're looking at the potential of her getting her best finish was 14th. That's a 16 place differential. If that were to happen again, she would be an excellent value on this slate. I don't know how low you're going to need to go because I haven't really looked at this enough. I'm planning on doing that tonight, and I may end up just pulling this down and re-recording the whole video. But Paul Menard, he's finished 4 top 20s in the last 6 races here, all 6 better than where he started. So I'm going to go with him. He's a little more expensive, but I think he can actually be a little less owned than Danica this week. Price and everything considered, he looks like a great option. So really my 4 core cash game tournament plays are going to be Truex, Kevin Harvick, Austin Dillon, Paul Menard. Thanks for watching. Like I said, I'm going to do a little more research on the Larson thing, but I think I'm right. I think because he ran, even though he was disqualified, I can't imagine them, saying you're starting at 30 and being graded from 30. I just have to look into it more. Truth be told, if I'm wrong and he's starting 39th, there's almost no way you can't play him. You're going to have to play him this week, despite the fact that he's only, finishing in the teens. You're still looking at 25, 26 place differential points. It's just going to be hard to make up from anyone else. All right, thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel below. Check us out at researchfantasy.com. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at researchandwin, and join us again next week.